I thought of a lot of stuff I could say, and I am going to wing it a little bit tonight, but just want to kind of try to, it's hard to summarize, 20 years that I've known Rich Stodd, and well, over 20 years that he directed here, and plus beyond that. But every teacher influences hundreds of students in large and small ways over the course of a school year. And Rich had a huge impact on Maple City Band, Geneseo, and many other places as well. So this concert is just a small way that we can share some memories and honor his legacy. So we're going to start out like we always do for Maple City Band, so if you're able to, please stand for the national anthem.
So instead of lending my instrumental skills to this evening, I figured I would lend my storytelling skills instead. So first and foremost, thank you all for being here tonight. To quote Paul McCartney, one of Rich Stodd's favorite musicians, "You and I have memories longer than the road that stretches out ahead. We're going home." On behalf of our family, we'd like to thank you for allowing us to always come home and welcoming us home. We'd like to thank Alan Kaiser for organizing this event, to the Maple City Band and Geneseo Performing Arts Council for their efforts in making this possible, and to all of you who are lending your time and talents. We thank you to celebrate an incredible man that we all miss very much. This memorial concert is a way for us to all remember the music given to this community, and I guarantee you that no one would have loved this event more than Dad. I know it's not the traditional park ambiance we all know and love when we think of the Maple City Band, but Dad never cared about the locale. For him, it was all about making music together. Someone once told me that there is no community without unity. Geneseo can pride itself on many things, but the artistic community tops the list. For my sisters and me, who now live far from West Pearl Street, the stories we share seem utopian to most. Growing up here, we take for granted the Tuesday night ice cream socials, where as kids we ran around in the dark chasing lightning bugs to a soundtrack of wonderful music, played by our teachers, neighbors, colleagues, and friends. My father was well aware of this gift, a reason he remained involved in Maple City Band for so many years. He cherished the alumni who played over the summer on their school breaks. He applauded the board members who worked tirelessly. He celebrated those who came just to be part of something special, and he appreciated those who set up their lawn chairs under the maples to enjoy each and every march. Speaking of marches, Maple City Band concerts under Dad's reign were full of them, and even though we aren't outside among the maples, it's only fitting that we start the concert off with one.
So when I first had the idea of doing this concert, I started making lists of different kinds of pieces, and Maple City Band over the last 20 years that Rich directed, well, we do some marches, we do some folk songs, we do some marches, we do some Broadway music, and some marches, and so, etc. But it soon became apparent to me, I had a list of 100 pieces, and that would take 3 or 4 or 5 concerts at least. So with the help of Janet and Aaron and Katie and Jenny, we narrowed it down to hopefully a reasonable number. It is a little bit of a chop buster, but I think we all enjoyed playing through some really great pieces. So several of Rich's students have gone on to become directors and music teachers, and all of us share a love for music, and I think that's something he passed on to us. So here is one of his students, Michael Gesby, to direct a great circus march. fond memories of Mr. Stodd and Maple City Band is doing some really hard classics they call war horses. And so for many years, we would start out the season by either doing whole first suite or whole second suite. So I flipped a coin and said, well, let's do second suite this year. So tonight, that's what you're going to get. Here we go. So right now, there's a lot of stories that were told this weekend. We had some alumni to get together last night. We had a little luncheon earlier today. Lots of stories throughout rehearsal, but a few people want to add a few words. So I'm going to introduce John Salter right now and come up and say a couple things.
The air is warm, but the water is cold. At least we could do some things right around here. Back in 1962, I had Richard Stodd as a student at Glenview Junior High. Back then it was junior high. None of this middle school stuff, and we loved it that way. Genesee of junior high. Richard was a friendly, academically talented student. Richard and I had several sessions in the faculty lounge. How many of you have ever been to a teacher or faculty lounge? I gotta say, at the junior high, high school, college level, university level, they're all the same. They are a blend of a special education class and a mental health ward. There are some people who stretch your spirits and capabilities, who lift your hopes, not your fears. These people are those you gravitate to because they multiply your joys and divide your sorrows. When these people pass away, in so many ways you feel you have lost so much. But upon further reflection, just knowing them, just being around them has given you so much. This guy we're honoring tonight represents all of these factors, all of these qualities, and much more. So much more. Godspeed to him. Richard is someone we should remember and emulate. Thank you.
So back in the early days of Rich's tenure as the Maple City Band Director, I can remember when we were happy, we were excited when we had 35 people. We're like, wow, we got a good band tonight. We got 35 members. And if I had to pick just one thing that Rich did throughout his whole tenure doing Maple City Band, he recruited more and more high school students. You get a few high school students to come, they start bringing their friends. When they go off to college, they don't all come back. They get jobs and they do stuff, but a few of them come back, and pretty soon, I feel lucky. I show up, and if we have 45, I'm like, gosh, the band's a little small tonight. So we have about 50, 60, sometimes 65 regularly, and that's kind of a legacy that Rich started. We kept the adults engaged and added more students and got them having fun, and that's something I strive to kind of keep up with what Rich did. And kind of go along with that, I know he would from time to time get that twinkle in his eye, and some years we just had 2 or 3 percussionists in the back, and I remember one year we had 5 or 6, and he said, oh, I got the piece. And so he pulled out this piece, and I'm like, gosh, it's got some great percussion parts. I kind of wish today I was back there playing, but anyway, I think they'll do fine. But so one year, I've been working them hard all afternoon, so I know they will do fine. But I can still picture that one year he got that gleam in his eye. I've got the piece to feature the percussion and the trumpets also. So he was a proud member of the Phi Alpha Sinfonia men's music fraternity, and this is a piece written especially for them. So here's the Sinfonians. we gave them quite a workout today, so, and we're not even halfway through the concert yet, so. One of the first pieces, I'm like, oh, that one's in, we gotta do that one. Rich was instrumental in commissioning a work from James Curnow back in 2006. That was the 100th anniversary of the Maple City Band. And this was, it took a couple years to get all the logistics going, but you know, basically Curnow asked Rich, well, give me some ideas of what to compose, and so Rich gave some history of Geneseo and some pictures and talked about the people coming from Geneseo, New York, Genesee, New York, and traveling out here, and that was the inspiration that Curnow used to write the piece. And it was a great day. July 4th outside. Curnow came to direct the premiere, and so it's nice to have that conductor. He composed it, and then he conducted us and worked with us a little bit that day. And so this is about our ancestors traveling out west to found the city of Geneseo. Here is Spirit of the Pioneers.
times it seemed like Dad was never home. In addition to nighttime marching band rehearsals, he directed the musical pit, his church choir, the Maple City Band, the Madrigal Brass, and the Pet Band. My dad's profession in my eyes was ever evolving. As a toddler, I thought he waved his arms to music speaking magical words. At 8 or 9, I thought he was Superman since his job earned me instant access onto the football field during a game. And by the time I myself joined the band in 6th grade, his podium may as well have been a stage for stand-up comedy, and I was mortified. Right around this time, I went with my parents and a friend to see the movie Mr. Holland's Opus. I remember hearing Dad's big guffaw throughout and that we shared a giant bag of popcorn. But what I don't remember is whether I realized at that moment that my father would have the same impact on people as this character on the screen. That right then, that very day, he had probably changed someone's life. It seemed that Dad did more than wave his arms and stand on the football field. And his impact was apparent over time, especially after his cancer diagnosis. I'd like to share with you words that I received last September. Your dad is amazing. He made my high school years better. I don't know if I ever would have been good enough for honors band, but he made me feel like I was. That was all I needed back then. He made me feel like I was somebody. So, whether he made you feel like somebody, or taught you how to play an instrument, or sent you to room 13 without passing go, you were his symphony. He knew all of your names and all of your strengths and rooted for each of you. If you are a GHS alum, we invite you to join us in singing or playing our GHS school song and fight song in a moment here. Here's to Alma Mater, here's to GHS, and here's to Mr. Stodd's Opus.
All right, so I thought Jenny was going to talk about this, but I'll talk about this. So he had they worked on with the athletic director of just, what can we do to kind of taunt the other team or just make a nice, he did a lot of pep band stuff. And so we thought, let's put something in the show that represents that. So he liked to do Hit the Road Jack quite a bit. So here is Jamie, I'm thinking Katofsky. I'm like, I know the maiden name because she was in my 8th grade band. But anyway, Jamie is going to direct Hit the Road Jack. So I had this all planned out, how it was going to be outside with the band shell. We got that nice cement in front. And so I'm just curious, right now, if you had Rich Stodd, whether you're in the band or if you're not playing, we had so many people say, oh, I don't play anymore and I still want to come back, or a lot of people that just couldn't come back. But if you had Rich Stodd for a director or a teacher, whether it was Maple City Band or Alwood or Geneseo or private lessons or anything, just raise your hand real high so you can see how many people had him as a teacher or a director. Is we're going to play the GHS in Wisconsin, and right after that we're going to get the whole Stodd clan. There's a lot of them here, not just Janet and the girls, but we're going to get them right in the center. And then whether you're in the band or you're out there, if you had him for a teacher, we want to get a mass of people all around him, all around them for a Mr. Holland's Opus. So we're going to take a little photo, and then after that, I don't know where you're going to go for intermission, but outside or just talk to the people. We're going to take a nice 15-minute intermission to kind of rest the band's chops a little bit. But so here's GHS, and without much of a break, on Wisconsin. So there's a lot of connections in the music world, and it was nice to see today. I think I know virtually everyone in the band behind me. I helped recruit some of them, and in some fashion or another, I've seen them, or they've come back from Maple City Band, or they've been in Maple City Band while I played or directed. But we found out about 10 days ago that Ryan Anthony, who's a fellow trumpet player, and he's a former member of the Canadian Brass, who Rich was a huge fan of. He suffers from the same myeloma cancer that Rich had. And he started a foundation a couple years ago called Cancer Glows. I think that's a great name for a foundation, but he's done a lot of big gigs with big name people to raise money and for cancer research. And he wanted to come today, and when he heard about this, but right now he's currently on a trip over to Japan, where he and 15 others that either they or their relatives are suffering from this. They're climbing Mount Fuji right now, and he sent a nice email to Janet to let her know that they're taking a banner up to the summit, and they've included Rich Stodd's name on that banner that they're taking. So that's a pretty cool story. So we thought we'd give you another march, and to direct this one, we have Dee Dow and Namensson. I know all these people by their maiden names, but come on up, Dee.
When I was in 8th grade, I asked Dad if I could quit the band. He said no. Not even a year later, there I was sitting first chair oboe in the concert band, dead center right in front of his podium, which was probably exactly where he wanted me. That year, Dad managed to find arrangements with really great oboe solos, one of them being Ireland of Legend and Lore by Robert W. Smith. As both a human and an educator, he loved two things, a good challenge and a good story, and this piece proved to be both. From what I remember of Dad's explanation of this piece, the finale takes place during a great battle. Cannons were fired continuously, but the castle with a strong foundation stood tall. Dad certainly had many battles while rehearsing this piece with us that spring. His eyes would grow wide and fiery as he attempted to get his young musicians to follow the difficult time changes. His index finger wagged when the brass section refused to sing when their music called for it. His foot tapped in anger when the percussionists destroyed a brake drum, then brought in a borrowed replacement. I don't think any of them are here. And he grew 5 gray hairs on his head when 2 of his flute students showed up with penny whistles they had bought without telling him and insisted on playing them. Battle after battle, Dad always returned to the podium and always with a smile on his face. When we finally performed the piece for the 1999 all-unit band concert, Dad's beloved concert band received a standing ovation for the first time. The strong musical foundation he had given us allowed us to succeed no matter the amount of cannons that tried to take us down. From that point forward, the piece was always one of his favorites. Please enjoy Robert W. Smith's Ireland of Legends and Lore.
Well, so anytime you get a group of alumni together, there's bound to be stories about, I remember back then, and I remember this, and we had some people last night, people today. But one thing I keep thinking, I'm so glad that 2 years ago, Sloan Hoffman had the idea, and Dee, Meredith, and myself kind of all worked together and got a whole bunch of Geneseo High School band alumni, no matter what era they played in band, got them together. And I still have some of my favorite memories are when Rich and Vic got up on the podium. We've got some great pictures. It was just like we were back in high school, the same nuances, the same conducting style. And so that we got some great pictures, and it was nice we got that in a couple of years ago. So our next conductor is Meredith McNaught.
Musical theater has always been a really big part of the Stott household. I remember one of Jenny's friends saying at one point, you know how in musicals people just start singing and like go about their daily lives? That happens at the Stott house. Dad loved musical theater, and Jenny and I were both lucky to not only play under our instruments under Dad's baton, but to sing under him as well. And this next piece is a medley of vocal selections from The Roar of the Grease Paint, The Smell of the Crowd, and Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. And it has special significance for us in the Stott family because Dad told me that he remembered the first day that Mom came to Augustana to visit and check it out. Is that true? Okay. But he did not ask her out at that time. He waited until he was conducting the pit for the Roar of the Grease Paint, Smell of the Crowd, and Mom was playing in it. So I know that there are at least 3 of us who are very grateful for the music. So here we go.
On a
want to thank everyone for coming out today and supporting the family and all of us. It's hard to get through some of these things. I have so many memories. I hear a song and I'm like, that reminds me of Rich directing, and it does mean a lot to us and the family and the band alumni and everyone who knew Rich Todd to gather here in his memory today. One of his traditions for July 4th, as well as the last Maple City Band concert of the season, which this is, was to do the Stars and Stripes Forever. And I can only think of one person that can do that justice, his colleague for 20 years, and here to direct the last piece is Mr. Bianchetta. So now we've got about 10 encores we're going to do. No, I think I never evolved if I did that, but we really do appreciate everyone coming. So we do got to get some stands and chairs back to the band or to the choir room. So if you want to chip in, help. But thank you everyone for coming, and stick around and talk a little bit. Thank you.